Hilches Avodim. So in Hilches Avodim is called side the halachis of an Avedivri. In Avedivri itself, there's Avedivri Shemachru Bezdin, and there's an Avedivri Shemachru Satzmei, and there's also the dinim of Omivri, that's the first four prokim, and then there's the dinim of an Evet Knaini. An Evet Knaini, and Aldera is a Shifri Knainis. Hilches Avodim yesh bechlolon shleish esri mitzvahs. Chomish mitzvahs hasei, ushmeina mitzvahs leisa, v'zo proton. Aleph, din kinyan Avedivri. Beis, shali yimocher memkeres ovet, and Gimel shali avidanu beferach, and Dalet shali navid be avedis ovet, and Hey shali naniar ger teshov lirdis be beferach, and Vav lahanik le betzeisi chovshi, and Zayin shali yetzi rekem, and others, this is the S and the Lesasa. The Vav is the Esa, lahanik le betzeisi chovshi, and the Zayin is shali yetzi rekem, the Isser of sending him out without Hanukkah, and Ches livdes amivriya, and Tes liyada yud shalei timocher, yud aleph lavid bevet knaini le'elam elim kein hipole adoinov echad mirashe evarov, yud beis shalei lahasgir evet shebarach mechutz loretz l'eretz Yisrael, that's talking about evet knaini, and yud gimel shalei lahoines evet zeh anitza leilenu, ubir mitzvusele v'prokamelu pedekrish. Is Eved Ivri Ha'amur B'Teira. So when the Teira speaks about Ki Mochel Lecha Chicho Ivri, there's a musig of selling an Eved, of a Yid being sold. Eved Ivri Ha'amur B'Teira. Zeh Yisraeli Shemochro Esi Bezdin Al Karchi. So one seer is where Bezdin sold a person. Yisraeli Shemochro Esi Bezdin Al Karchi, he sold him against his will. Another situation is Hamoicher Atzmi L'Rtzeini, a person willingly goes ahead and sells himself. Ketzat. When do we say that Bezdin sells someone? Gonav ve'inlei l'shalim esaken. So then Bezdin mechanese k'mesha biyana bilchis gneva. So if a person was a goynef and he doesn't have the karen to pay, the gneva, knows if he's missing the kefil, so you don't sell him in order to be able to retrieve the kefil. Masha'inkin, if he's missing the karen, he doesn't have the karen, so then you sell him in order for him to pay the keren. Bezdin mechanese k'mesha amarnu b'hilchis gneva. Ve'ein l'chayish b'Yisrael shemechanese bezdin ela haganav bilvad. The musig of selling someone in order for him to pay a debt is only b'negei aganf. Whereas if a person has another debt, so if he has the debt, so if he has the money, you have to mun from him. But if he doesn't have the money, so then there's nothing, you can't mun by him, and you can't sell him in order to get the money. And Nachmar, you can't even force him to go to work. Whereas Bezdin can't really force a person to go to work in order for him to go pay up his debts. A person owes money, so he owes taka money. If he has money, he has to pay. If he gets any money, he has to use that money to pay up the debt. But in order to force someone to go ahead to go to work in order to pay up the debt, you can't do that. Bezdin can't do that. It could be the person himself is mechuyev to go ahead and try to pay up his debts. But on the other hand, for Bezdin to enforce it, that's a din only b'negeya aganif. Aganif, the Bezdin go ahead and sell this person in order to pay up the debt that he has from the Geher Keren. Ve'ein l'chayish b'Yisrael shemechanei Bezdin ela haganif bilvad. V'alzeh shemachru Bezdin eimer ki sikne avedivri. That's the parsha in Shmeis and Mishpatim. And v'alavueim of Mishnah Teira ki mochel lecha chicho ivri, which is also talking about a machru Bezdin. So there's a musik called an Eved Ivri, which Bezdin sold him, and the reason why they sold him was because he was a ganef and he doesn't have money to pay the keren. Now, Moicher Atzmi Ketzah, there's another musik called Moicher Atzmi, where a person sells himself. Zeh Yisrael Sheheni B'Yesa, is very poor. Is Nosner Le'Reteir Rishus Lim Keres Atzmi. He has Rishus to go ahead and sell himself. Shenamar Ki Yomoch Achicha Imoch and V'nim Kolach. The pasuk in Parshas Bahar talks about a person became very poor, Ki Yomoch Achicha Imoch, and he's sold to you. And ve'eini rashoy limker es atzmei ulatznias dama. A person is not allowed to go ahead and sell himself and put the money away that he's getting for himself. Oy liknes bem schere kelim, or to buy other things. Oy litnim valchev, or to go pay a debt. That's a person's eini rashoy limker es atzmei in order to get the money or to go do business or to pay up a debt. Elim kein tzarech la'ochlam bilvad. The only time when you're rashoy to sell yourself is only if you need the money for food. Unless he has nothing, he owns nothing. He can't buy any food. He doesn't even own clothes. V'achar kach, only then is Yimker Esatzmei, could he sell himself. Now the Lashon Rambam is Einer Rashoy Limker Esatzmei. We bring, the Rambam brings from the Tesefte, so as also Aruch HaShulchan says it, Taichas Ruiz Klor, that this din is only, he's not allowed to. But Lepel, if he goes ahead and sells himself, so he's sold. In other words, a person is not allowed to sell himself unless he has no money at all. He doesn't even have clothes, because if he has clothes, then he would have to sell his clothes and buy food with the clothes, with the money that he got for the clothes. Masha'in Kain, he's only allowed to sell himself if he has nothing. But Lepel, if he did sell himself, and he used the money for other things, so he's sold. Just like a person not supposed to sell himself to a goy, like we'll learn Behemshech. But if he did sell himself to a goy, he's sold. So Aldero's over here, he's not allowed to sell himself if he has other things, but on the other, if he sold himself, so he's mocher. Allah Chabez. Kvar bi'anu sheheino isha nimkeres b'gnevasa. So I'm said already in Hilchos Gneva that the musik of a nimker b'gnevasa is only by a man and not by a woman. That's din number one. And also v'chein eine micheres esatzmi, the musik of an eved which is mecheres esatzmi also doesn't apply to a isha. Isha can not, the only way an isha should become an amevriya is only through the fact that her father sold her. A father's allowed to sell her until she's a naira. While she's a ktana, the father is allowed to sell her, as we'll learn. Masha'enkim, for her to sell herself, there's no mitzvah of her selling herself, and there's no mitzvah of Bezdin selling her. That's din number one. And then the Ram continues, Ve'ena koina lo yavet ivri v'lo yavet knaini, and that's already not a din deiraisa, that's mepnei achshat. That's mepnei achshat, because Lepel, she's buying an evet, so it's achshat, she's a woman, to buy an evet, it could cause achshat. That's nochadin. And then there's a third din, Ve'en hager nikne be'evet ivri. A ger, it cannot be bought as an evet ivri, it's a special din, shenemar v'shavel mishpachti. By an evet ivri, it says v'shavel mishpachti, so we learn out mishiyesh lo mishpacha. That the only musik of an evet ivri only applies to someone that by him ultimately shaykh v'shavel mishpachti. Masha'inkin, if there's no v'shavel mishpachti, so then he cannot be sold. Halacha gim. Evet ivri shemachru bezdin, ein moichen noisi elo liyisrael, oy leger tzedek. Bezdin has a right to sell someone v'nimka b'gnevasei, but they sell him only to a yid or to a ger tzedek. V'chein ha-moicher atzmei einer ashoy limker atzmei legoy, v'afilu leger teisha, even to a ger teisha, which is a goy that was mekabel shav nisbelei neach, and he has special dinim of being an Eretz Yisrael, but nevertheless, a yid is not allowed to sell himself to a goy, even to a ger teisha. However, he's not allowed to. If he sold himself even to Avid Avidah Zorah, vafilu Avidah Zorah atzma, even not only to the Avid Avidah Zorah, he sold himself to the actual Avidah Zorah. Is hariz a mocher shenemer ela eker mishpachas ger, so leeker ze animkal Avidah Zorah atzma. So Rashi brings it also in Chumash and Sof Parshas Bahar. You have to understand, what does it mean, hanimkal Avidah Zorah atzma? In other words, the Avidah Zorah is like an institution which can own something. Whereas l'chura, a person could own something. I'm saying, well, a behemoth cannot own something. There's a whole issue. I mean, today there's a musa called a corporation owning something. So there's a entity that's called a corporation, and that corporation owns something. It's a different shilas, ribis. Whereas, what kind of din does that corporation have? Is there really such a musik al pitera of having a corporation that owns something? L'chura, a person could own something. Now, a person is part of this corporation, so he's like a shutif. So it's a shayla when you get a bank. If a bank lends someone money, so the question is it the bank that's lending money? Is there such an entity called a bank, or is it the people that have shares in the bank that they're lending the money, they're taking the money? So it's a shayla when you get ribis. Over here, the Ram seems to say that the Ram is saying, I feel Avidah Zorah. He sold himself to Avidah Zorah. And Avidah Zorah owns him. I'll call upon him. Halacha dalet. Ba v'omar l'cho hareini mecher atzma l'goyim. A yid comes along and says, I need money, and I'm going to sell myself to goyim. Is einat zokakloi achi yemacher. In other words, if he sold himself to goyim, so then you have to try to get him out. But for the fact that he's saying he's going to sell himself to goyim, and therefore he wants you should give him money in order to prevent him from actually selling himself to goyim, that's not a chiyuv. Lepel, he wasn't allowed to sell himself to a goy. The Rambam said before, Einer Ashoy. But Lepel is mitzvah l'fdei say v'lei yitameh b'hem. He shouldn't get mixed up amongst goyim. Shenama achri nimkar gula tirle. So the pasuk says clearly it's achri nimkar. So in other words, l'chatchila kaidim shenimkar. There's no chiyuv to start saying that since Israeli is not allowed to sell himself to goyim, he's threatening, he's going to do something he's not allowed to. But so Mamela, you're not really mechuyev to give him money in order to prevent him from doing something which he's not really allowed to. However, if he did it, so the matzav is that he's right now an eved of a goy, so then there's a chiyuv of geula tiyalei. Halacha hey. So that's the thing. So there's a musik called a mechru bezin. Mechru bezin is only by gneva. There's a musik called mecher satzmei. A mecher satzmei is only if he doesn't have any rashoy, unless he mamish doesn't have anything to eat. Only if he doesn't have anything to eat, and even in such a situation, he could only sell himself to a yid or to a ger tzedek. Masha'inkin to sell himself to a ger teshav, he's not allowed to, and certainly to stam goyim. But lepel, if he sold himself to a goy, he's sold. And once he sells himself to a goy, there's a mitzvah for other yidden to be paid him. Halachei. Echad ha-mecher atzmei, eish mechru bezin, einei nimkar b'farhesia. He's not sold b'farhesia al even ha-mekach. There would be like a certain stone where they would put the eved on, and people would maybe look at him and inspect him to see whether or not he's a fit as an eved. So that's a very big bizoyin. The person's being sold as an eved b'farhesia. So that's Eina Nimke B'Farhesia Eleven HaMekach, to be put on this Even HaMekach, where people look at him in order to decide whether or not he's a fit Eved. And also V'lei B'Simta. Simta is like a side area in the Rishus HaRabim, like a little corner in the Rishus HaRabim, which is also a very public area where people could come and look at him. In other words, he's being sold publicly as an Eved. Kederach Sha'avodim Nimkarim, like regular Avodim HaSol, Goyish Avodim HaSol. Shenema le'yemachru memkeres ovid, ein nimkar ele betzina, and also b'derech kovid. He has to be sold b'derech betzina and b'derech kovid. Some say that b'derech kovid means there shouldn't be achrozes to say that an eved is being sold. In other words, there should be a quiet event that he's being sold either by himself or through bezin, but it should be done quietly. Halacha vav. Kol eved ivri osir lavid be'befarach. So this first thing is how you sell an eved ivri. That an eved ivri shouldn't be sold le'yimachru memkeres eved. He shouldn't be sold like a regular eved publicly, al eved amekach or in a public place. He should be sold betzina and b'derech kovet. Now there's another thing. Once he is an eved, kol eved ivri osir lavid be'befarach. The ezu avedas perach. What would be called an avedas perach? So there's two avedas. First of all, zu aveda sheilo kitzvah. Whereas if you give him to work something and you don't tell him how much he has to work, it's an aveda sheilo kitzvah. You're not really telling him exactly how much he has to do. You're telling him to do something, as we'll soon see, and you're not telling him how much to do. He has to do it until you come back and tell him to stop doing it. And also, a second case of avedas perach would be va'aveda she'enit tzarich lo. If you ask him to do something which is not something, even it's not a hard thing. And it's not something ein lo kitzvah, but on the other end, it's ein tzorich lo. Elatia machshavti lahavide bilvachli yibotl. In other words, your only purpose of telling him to work is not because you really need what he's doing. You just want him to be working. So from here we say that you're not allowed to have avedas perach. And avedas perach means two things. First of all, aveda shein lo kitzvah, and secondly, aveda shein tzorich lo is omr chacham sheliyamele ader tachas akfonim at she'aveh. Whereas you start hoeing under the vines, and digging there and making the ground soft near the vines, and keep doing it at sha'ave until I come back. So it's not clear how long he's going to have to do it. At sha'ave, sharei l'nosli kitzvah. So that's called avedas perach because ein kitzvah. Eliyemrele ader at sha'av plainis or ad malkum plainis. In other words, he tells him clearly that it should happen either for this amount of time or until you get to this and this place. So it's clear, he knows exactly when he starts doing work until where he has to get to. That's the number one of perach. That's aveda shein lekitzvah. V'chein leyemrele chafer mokom zeh v'hoin etzorech le. If he tells him go dig an area here, but he doesn't really need that digging. He just wants him to be occupied. And digging is maybe a hard work. V'afilu lochem lekeshel chamen elohatzin vein tzorech le. He knows he asks him to just heat him up a cup of water, and he doesn't really need it. So that would also go into the get avedas perach. Asur ve'evro b'leisasa. Shenamar lisirde be'befarach. His whole amadata. So what are you allowed to do? First, it has to be a dover kotzuv. But it's clear what you're telling him what to do. It should be clearly, it should be quantified. And also, shehut tzarich. This dover kotzuv has to be something shehut tzarich. V'chein hagoy shenimkalei. If lepel and eved ivri was sold to a goy, is imrada bebefarach. If the Yid sees that this guy is being raided bebefarach, Hari Yisrael mitzuvin lemoni. The Yid is supposed to prevent the guy from being oived with the Yid befarach. And if lapel the Yid let the guy continue being oived with this Yisrael befarach, is Avrim Belesis, Shanama Leyadanu Befarach Leinecha. Aber if einer niskokim nichnes l'shusi shel goy v'liv the kachrev shel yavidanu befarach. Shanama Leinecha b'zman shater reya. If you see him actually being raided befarach, so you have to prevent him. Mashenken, it's not a chiyuv on you. Knows if Evedivri was sold to a guy, it shouldn't be sold to a guy. But if he was sold to a guy, for you to go ahead and try to inspect to find out whether he's being raided befarach, that's not a chiyuv. So that's this din that once you have an Evedivri, so again, we learn how you sell an Evedivri, the limacher mimkeres eved, and also leyirdenu beferach. You're not allowed to be yirdenu beferach, you're also not allowed to let a goy be reide beferach. Halacha zayin. Kol Evedivri is aser liyisrael shekano lahavide bedvarim boizim, shehem miyuchodim la'asis avodim. So it's another din, that you're not allowed to make him work in things which are degrading, types of work which is degrading, which is special for an eved to do. Only avodim usually do such work. That he should bring his kelim after and levis hamerchatz. So if he brings this brought down, if he brings his kelim hamerchatz, he's not like following him, so he could do that. Mashenka, that he's going to the beis hamerchatz and he's just carrying his kelim behind him, so that's very degrading. Oi. Yachlis leimanolav. He asks that he should take off his shoes. Shenamar leisavid be avedus ovid, which means ein noyeg be ela kisocher. You deal with him not like with an eved, but you deal with him like someone that you hire. Shenamar like a worker. Kenamar kisocher kiseshiv yeimach. So you're not allowed to go ahead and ask him or tell him to do things which are degrading. And the example that the Rambam says is melech kelev achrav lebeis hamerchatz. Umuter l'sapra l'sa'are, you're allowed to ask him to give you a haircut, or l'chabes l'ksusi to wash your clothes, or v'lefes l'isase, or to go ahead and bake for you. Aval l'yase oisi balon l'rabim, so to go ahead and give you a haircut, or to wash your clothes, or to bake for you, that you could do. But in order to tell him that he should become in charge of a bathhouse, or he should become a barber, or he should become a baker, so that depends. Only if he was originally a baker, originally a barber, originally taking care of a bathhouse. So then you could ask him to do that and instruct him to do that, and you'll earn money on that. Mashenkin, if he wasn't originally that, so you're not allowed to. That's this thing. Eliyasa is a balon l'rabim. He should be someone that takes care of a bathhouse. A sapra l'rabim, become a barber. A nachtim l'rabim, become a baker. However, v'mhoisum nosis is kedem sheyimacher is a yasa. Is nachamol. To tell him that he should be Yelech Achrev Kelev Beis HaMerchatz is also. To tell him that he should go ahead and give you a haircut, wash your clothes, bake for you, that's Peseda. But to make him into a baker, to make him into a person that's a barber, that you're not allowed to, unless that was his professional originally. Avalei Lamdenu B'tchila Malacha Klal Elo Umni Sha'hoyabei Hu Sha'oisuk Sha'hoya Oisamikedim. There's only, you don't go ahead and start teaching him a new trade. There's something that he was used to doing that he continued doing. He could do it the same way he did it earlier. Mashenka for him to start doing, to become a balan, that you can't insist on him doing that. And so in other words, Nachamal, to do it for yourself, that's no problem. In other words, to ask him to give you a haircut is not a problem. Mashenka, to ask him to become a barber is only if he was originally a barber. Now, b'medvar mamurim, that you can't ask a person, an eved, to go ahead and do something which is degrading, that's talking about Evedivri. In other words, to ask an Evedivri, to tell an Evedivri to carry your clothes, to mail a Kelev Achres, Lebeis HaMerchatz, that's degrading. Or to tell him to tie your to take off your shoes. Mamedvar Mamurim, you're not allowed to do Evedivri, that's a musik that he was sold as an Evedivri. Isn't it self-degrading? And now you're going to start doing with him something that's even more degrading, so it's going to be very, very repressive for him. Aval Yisrael Shali Nimkar, but a Yid that wasn't sold, Mutar L'shtamish Bekevet. So you're allowed to ask him to do work. In other words, you're allowed to hire a Yid to do work for you, which normally an Eved would do. Shari Einim Ayisim Malach Israel, but it's Einim, Das Atzmi, that person is not mechuyev to do it. When you have an Eved Ivri and he's in a position where he's mechuyev to do it, and he's Bechlal in a Shval Ruach, so you're not allowed to ask him to do such a degrading thing. Mashenkin Stamazeh, you're hiring a Yid. If the person wants to do it, he'll do it. If he doesn't want to do it, he won't do it. And if he does it, you'll pay him for it. So that there's no problem of hiring a Yid to do something which would be Avedis Evet. Halacha Ches. Anoshim she'enem negin kishura is mutter l'rdeisim bechoska u'lishtabedom. So even though we learned in Avedivri, you're not allowed to be a two with him Avedis Evet, to do bechoska, but nevertheless, someone that's enem negin kishura and you have control over him, Pashtus, we told him if he's a Avedivri, or even if he's not your Avedivri, but somehow or another you have control over him, so then is mutter l'rdeisim bechoska u'lishtabedom. We learn out from the pasuk, Ubachechem ne Yisrael Yisir de Befarach. We learn out dafka if he's neig minig achechem. He's only if he's neig minig Yisrael. Melech shegozer shekol mi shalei yitna masa kotzuf is shalei yitna masa kotzuf al kol ish v'ish. Is yishtabed lezeh shenosna masa al yodi. So there was a certain tax that everyone had to pay the king, and the king said that if anyone doesn't pay the tax and someone else pays the tax for him, so that person will be able to be nishtabed with him. This person will have to work for that person that paid the tax for him. Is areza muter lishtamish beyesim midai. Yesim midai is not so clear. Yesim midai means bepashtus. It means more than what it was worth the tax. Whereas Hitaka paid it for his taxes, but Lepel is being mishtabed with him more than normally a person would be mishtabed with a person. It's more than he's worth because he paid the tax. Avalei ke'evet. But on the other end, to deal with him as you would deal with an Evet, that you're not allowed to. You know, just like you're not allowed to tell someone, an Evet Ivri, to Heilich Akrav Kelev V'Beis HaMerchatz, so that would also be Yasser here. But on the other end, is Mutter L'Shtabed Be'Yesem Midai. It's not clear in the Rambam what Yesem Midai is. However, it's V'Me'nei Keshura, so then it's Mutter L'Shtabish Be'Kevet. That's what we said before. So that would be a scenario where Anoshim She'enim Negin Keshura is mutter l'rdeisim b'chosko l'shtabed b'am. Even though he's not an avedivri, he doesn't have a din of an avedivri. But on the other end, he's under your control, and a regular yid that's under your control, you're not allowed to be l'rdeisim ke'evet, even if he's not an avedivri mamish. You see from the Rambam. But on the other hand, if he's ein ney keshura, you're allowed to. Halacha tes. So the first thing is you're not allowed to do beferach and you're not allowed to do avedis oved. Now we're saying nochmer. Kol halacha tes. Kol avedivri yom ivriya. Is chayev ha'odon lahashvoisuloi b'meichel u'b'mashke b'ksus u'b'modder. So a person needs food and drink and clothes and living quarters. So in all these things, the odon is supposed to make him equal. Hashvoisuloi, that he should be similar to him as far as his food is concerned, his drink, his clothes, and his quarters, where he lives. Shenamar kitev le'imoch. Whereas you're eating bread that's white bread, and he's eating bread with bran. You're drinking good wine, and he's drinking also wine, but not such good wine. You're sleeping on a comfortable bed, on feathers, whatever, or soft material. Muchen is soft material, which makes it comfortable for you to sleep. He's sleeping on top of straw. You're living in a krach, in a city, a large city. He's living in a village. Now there's milas living in a large city, like I'll be living in a village. There's milas living in a village, like I'll be living in a large city. So either way, it's not allowed to. Atador bekrach v'udor bekvar, or atador bekvar v'yesh bekrav. Shenemar v'yotza me'imach. He goes out from where you are, and knows me'imach knows where you are. You can't like have him in other types of quarters, which is different than where you live. So there's a din of kitoiv le'imach. From there we learn out that he has to be b'maichel, b'mashke, ubiksus. And a b'mother, the Rambam doesn't really say that he has to live in the same type of house as yours. So if a person, it says he has to sleep on the same type of a bed, in the comfortableness of the bed. But on the other hand, l'chur is this, I'm not sure, but a person is living in a fancy house, and he has fancy furniture, and the Eva is living in his quarters, and over there it's not fancy furniture. So it doesn't say that he has to have also the fancy furniture. He has to have the same comfort. The bed should be the comfort. But on the other hand, the idea of imei b'mother is not mitzat k'toiv le'imach. B'mother means because he has to be in the same place, in the same type of a place. Being in this type of an environment is better than being in this type of environment. So that's v'yotze me'imach. He should go out from where you are. Mikan Omru, from based on all these dinim that toiv le'imach and v'yotzim meimach mikanamru kol hakena evedivri kekena odin la'atzmei. And the Gemara says because lepeil lemashal if he has only one bed, one comfortable bed, so if he's going to use it and he's going to give the eved not a comfortable bed, so it's missing ketev leimach. If neither of them will use it, so it's midas daily. You have a bed, why shouldn't he use it? So Mela comes out that the Eved is going to be sleeping on the comfortable bed, and the Odin is going to be sleeping on the not comfortable bed. The Rambam doesn't say all this, but that's what it says in the Gemara. So Mela, that's from here we say Kol Hakena Eved Ivri Kikena Odin Latzmi, V'chayiv Linig Bei Minig Achva, and also you should treat him like a brother. You shouldn't treat him like a slave. You should treat him like a Minig Achva. Shnema B'Cheichem B'nei Yisrael. That's on one hand, so there's a chiyuv on the Odin should deal with him b'minig achva and tevle imach and imach, but on the other hand, v'yotzim imach v'afal b'kein tzarich ha'eved linig ba'atzmi minig avdus based on avedus shoesele. Knows when the eved does work for the Odin, so there should be a certain bittul from the eved to the other. She realizes he's the Odin, he's the eved. Halacha yud einam evriya neheges v'lei eved ivri neheg el b'zman shayevul neheg. Only when there's Yevel is named, there could be a musik called an Avedivri or an Abinavriya. Bein Avedivri Shmeich Ratzmei, Bein Zeh Shmechru Bezdin could only happen Bizman Shayevel Neig. For Biyanu, Mosei Bottle Yevelis. Right now, there's no Yevelis when the Yevelis became bottle. We do it. But I'll call upon him, Bizman Azeh is not made the din of Avedivri or Amivriya.